it up.
You didn't get a
Executive
wait
order.
looks like you got
And then not the lawyer. You're not there by yourself? So you brought everybody out. I was glad to see you.
Did you guys find some bullets?
Think about it.
I mean, you guys probably have hard practicing, right?
Oh my gosh, just to qualify, too. That's 3,000 to 5,000 rounds. We lined about 2 boxes at a time, 3 times what we normally get.
Coming back.
I think Tom said you can't get 9 mil out of the army. You get all 35 of it, you'll be shooting 45. But you can't get 9 mil out of it.
That what they're carrying around now?
I think that's their issue. Tom, I think Tom. I know he qualified on this. I'm not sure if that's what he cares about.
Yeah, I think it's about 3,000 rounds.
Good, how are you? Yeah. I thought he was gonna find out.
I don't think 10 is a
Diamond. We ready? Okay. I don't see the gavel, so I'll just my hand. Seeing as it's 6 p.m., I will call the regular meeting of the Kenai City Council for June 16, 2021 to order. And if you are able, would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Mayor Gabriel is absent tonight. Councilmember Petty? Here. Councilmember Nackstedt?
Here.
Councilmember Glendenning?
Here.
Vice Mayor Malloy?
Here.
Councilmember Winger?
Present.
Councilmember Askin? Here. Vice Mayor Malloy, you have a quorum?
Thank you. Council, before we get to the agenda approval, I'd like to call your attention to the laydown with requested revisions to the agenda packet. Action add to item D3, ordinance number 3219-2021, supplemental information requested by the city clerk, photographs with text. And then also, with your permission, I'd like to suspend the rules and move item G8 to be D1 because Mr. Ruffner is here to speak to that. So if council agrees, if I could have a motion to that effect, thank you. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I move for approval of the agenda with the addition of item D3 and moving item G8 to D1.
Second.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the agenda is approved. Next item is consent agenda. Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move for approval of the consent agenda. Request unanimous consent.
Second.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the consent agenda is approved. Madam Clerk, could you please read the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Tonight on your consent agenda, you have approval of the regular meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2021, approval of the bills to be ratified brought forth by the administration, approval of FY21 purchase orders over $15,000 brought forth by administration, approval of FY22 purchase orders over $15,000 brought forth by administration, and approval of a non-objection to liquor license renewals for Peninsula Oilers and Pizza Paradisos brought forth by the city clerk. And that's your consent agenda tonight.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to any item on the consent agenda, which the clerk has just read into the record? And do we have anybody on Zoom?
No, it's
Okay.
all staff.
Seeing no one who'd like to speak to the consent agenda, move on to the next item. We have no scheduled public comments for item B. Item C, unscheduled public comment. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to council on any item that is not on the consent agenda and not on the regular agenda? If so, please come forward. Okay, we have no one tonight who wants to make an unscheduled public comment, so we'll move on to public hearings. First item is G8, actually an action approval item. This was be authorizing the city administration to submit previously adopted resolution 2020-89, a resolution of the city of Kenai, Alaska, opposing alternative 4 proposed to the North Pacific Management Council that would close all federal waters in Cook Inlet to commercial fishing, along with an accompanying letter from the mayor as City of Kenai comments to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's proposed regulations closing the EEZ to commercial fishing prior to the July 6, 2021 comment deadline. This is brought forth by all of the council members. Is there a motion? Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move to approve the what you just read into the record.
Thank you. Second. And the rules have been suspended, so we'll allow public comment on this if there's anyone from the general public who would like to speak to this action approval item. Mr. Ruffner. Thank you. He's all ready to go. Thank you. Appreciate your efficiency.
I'm trying to be as efficient as you guys are. So, Robert Ruffner, last name is Ruffner, reside at 48460 Lakeside Avenue in Soldotna. Two weeks ago, I thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy and members of the council and administration here. Two weeks ago, I came before you kind of to talk, and we talked at length about the action that had been taken to close essentially half of the drift fleet's waters off. And so this is a follow-up on that. And there's a couple things that changed. The next day after I was here that following Thursday, the NOAA came out with another call for public comments that deal specifically with the regulations that would be implemented by the amendment that I was previously talking about. So typically those things don't run concurrently in public comment, but this time they are running concurrently. So I talked with Mr. Bloom a couple of times about what could be done here. And I definitely get the sense that all council members are very supportive of this and you want to take action. So I greatly appreciate that. And I think the plan that we came up with allows some flexibility to allow us to accomplish what needs to happen. So the things from my perspective that need to happen are is that, you should register your previously approved resolution when this issue came up last fall. And just submit that into the record for the July 6th deadline, along with a letter that explains kind of why you're sending that.
So Mr. Ruffner's indicated that he's willing to take any questions if council has any. Are there any questions? Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you for coming back and following up. I've been following a lot of our representatives very closely, and I see that our Kenai Peninsula delegation as well had sent in a letter of support for this as well, and I'm happy to be joining this effort.
Are there any other questions? Councilmember Glendenning.
Just a comment. Again, thank you, Robert, for sticking with us and bringing us up to speed. And anything that you can offer, as you just did, is greatly appreciated by this body and myself. Thank you.
And I join my colleagues in thanking you for keeping the pedal to the metal on this one, and we appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Is there any other member of the general public who would like to comment on this action approval item? Okay, seeing none, take it back to council and discussion by council. Councilmember Winger.
I'm not sure if anybody else has seen that letter from the Kenai delegation. It was posted on Representative Sarah Vance's page. I would be happy to forward a copy of that to Jamie to disperse so that we can see what our fellow representatives have done.
Very good idea. Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Is there any other comment? Okay. I don't recall if unanimous consent was requested.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection?
I would like my vote to be voted on without unanimous consent.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Petty,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxtet,
Yes.
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes, yes, yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Next item then for public hearings is ordinance number 3217, 2021, conditionally donating certain city-owned property described as 2 approximate 1 1/4 acre parcels to be subdivided from a portion of the 72 acre more or less portion of the southeast 1/4 lying east of Tract A, Kenai Meadows, KBB parcel number 039-01065 to Kenai Peninsula Housing Initiative for the development of restricted income and senior housing, brought forth by Mayor Gabriel, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Winger. And note that there's a request in the packet by administration to postpone this item to July 7th with a second public hearing so that it could be referred to planning and zoning for comment. So is there a motion from council? Oops. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, I'd like to move to postpone, please.
Could we move to enact it first?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
No problem. Councilmember Naxtet.
I'll move to enact ordinance 3217, 2021.
Second.
Thank you.
I would like to move to postpone, please.
We need to open it for public hearing first.
I
Yes,
beg your
thank you,
pardon.
Madam Clerk.
Please excuse me.
Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3217, 2021? Okay, seeing none, we'll take it back to council. Councilmember Petty.
I would like to move to postpone this ordinance, please,
And would you like it to be postponed
to July the 7th.
and would you like to have a second public
And
hearing?
I would like to have a second public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Unanimous, request unanimous consent.
It's been moved and seconded. Is unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection to unanimous consent, ordinance number 3217, 2021 is postponed to the July 7th meeting with a second public hearing. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 3218, 2021, accepting and appropriating drug seizure funds into the police small twos account brought forth by administration. Motion from council. Councilmember Naxtat.
Thank you. I move to enact ordinance 3218, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, this ordinance has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3218, 2021? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. Any discussion? Councilmember Askin.
About how much money are we talking that we're going to be able to move over?
And would you like to hear from administration on that? City manager, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Askin, it's $112.50. So probably not going to make a big difference for the police department this year, but it is money that we need to get appropriated.
Is there any other discussion by council? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Naxtat,
Yes?
Councilmember Glendenning,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Malloy,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ordinance number 3218, 2021 is adopted. Next item is ordinance number 3219, 2021, conditionally donating certain city-owned property described as one approximate 2-acre parcel to be subdivided from a portion of the 6.8-acre more or less portion of the east of Tract 4 Barron Park subdivision, KBB parcel number 045013035, to Triumvirate Theater for the development of the theater facility brought forth by administration. And do we have a motion to enact? Shoot. Councilmember Naxtat.
You turned me off.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
technical difficulties.
I move to enact ordinance 3219, 2021.
I'll second.
This ordinance has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3219, 2021? Okay, please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Rizzo.
Joe Rizzo, 55761 Antasta Avenue, Kenai, Illinois. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your service on the council and for serving the community here in Kenai. I'm president of Triumvirate Theater, and on the 7th of July, I will bring you some architectural conceptual drawings and how we propose that this building set on the lot. And some of those details, the architect should be pretty far down the road by then. Tonight, what I'd really like to talk to you about is the capacity of Triumvirate Theater as an organization. Some of you may or may not know that when we started to remodel this North Road Motors building many years ago, there was still snow in the building. It was drifted up on the floor, and we
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Is there any, Councilmember Winger?
Yes, I have a comment from Mr. Rizzo. I just wanted to say thank you for coming and providing us the pictures and the architect design in the next coming meeting. I look forward to welcoming you in the city of Kenai and look forward to what you're going to offer our youth. And I have my son in the audience who's 12, and so you couldn't be more on point with needing more avenues for children in a community building. So thank you.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, just affirmation of what a previous commenter is that this is an integral part of our community, and we're just thrilled to support it in any way that we can. And thank you for your presentation. And I'm not going to say the fix is in, but I think you'll get your land. Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for the additional lay-down photographs, Mr. Rizzo. Excuse me a second, Mr. Rizzo. I missed Councilmember Petty. I'm sorry. No, it's my bad.
I was just wanting to know that the bell rang before your comments were closed. Was there anything else that was burning on your heart that you wanted to share with us?
Thank you for that. The one thing.
So I'll just follow up on that, Mr. Oh, did you have something else?
I just wanted to say thank you for getting this put together, and that I had been participated by being in the audience on a number of your plays, and it's a wonderful community asset. Hopefully the asset can continue.
Oh, I think it'll continue, and I think it'll get bigger and bigger.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Yes, Mr. Rizzo, we've been asked to postpone this to the first meeting in July because our procedures require us to send it to Planning and Zoning for comment, but it sounds like you can accommodate that. Yeah.
I'll be back from seeing grandchildren 2 days after.
Okay, very good.
I'll be back.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who would like to speak to Ordinance 3219, 2021? Yes, please come forward. Please state your name and where you live for the record.
Hello, my name is Kate Cox, and I am from Soldotna. I have been in a lot of plays with Triumphant Theater since I was 8 years old. I really love meeting new people and having the chance to get out of my comfort zone and trying new things. I would really appreciate it if you would help the theater and donate the land. This is the next big step of rebuilding our theater. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Is there are you willing to take some questions or comments if there are any? Thank you. Anyone? Councilmember Winger.
I just wanted to say thank you for getting up and speaking to us. I know it's not easy to do public speaking, but you've been practicing for 4 years with theater, so just good job well done, and thank you for being active and involved.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, I have a question for you. What was your favorite play and the role that you played in the play?
My favorite play that I did is the Magic Tree House Pirates Past Noon, and I was one of the pirates. I was Stinky.
Did you have a sword?
No.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cox. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else from the general public who would like to speak to Ordinance 3219, 2021? Go ahead.
Hello, Tyson Cox, 237 West Redoubt in Soldotna. That was my daughter Kate, and I want to start by saying that Kenai is being offered quite an opportunity to keep a very, what I would consider a great asset in your community. Being from Soldotna, I sure would love to see it over there. So you guys have a great great opportunity to keep it here. My family has enjoyed many of the plays performed at the theater and would love to continue that. Some of which my daughter was in, which we have definitely appreciated those as well. But my daughter has participated in not only the plays, but they do a lot of summer camps and things like that too, which are very beneficial. And it's benefited our family, and Kate especially, in that she's also with one of the former persons who was in actors that also was one of the teachers of those summer camps. She now does voice lessons with that person and has continued with participating in some of those things. And the biggest part is you know, the ability and confidence for Kate to even come up here like that, I don't think I would have had as a child. And I have to give a lot of that credit to Triumphant and the experiences that she's had there. So to see more people be able to come up in front of crowds like this, and I know this isn't a play, but it's speaking in front of people, and it's very difficult. And I'm very thankful for what they do, and it's not just about plays. Plays are the great part of it, and they get to do and become other people during that time, but it also gives them some of these other skills that can be used all throughout their life. So thank you.
Would you be willing to take any questions if there are any?
If there are any.
Yes. Councilmember Winger.
I always have comments, so I would like to thank you for coming and testifying. I am grateful that they chose to come to Kenai and not Soldotna. So I'm sorry for your loss, but definitely look forward to them coming in. And thank you for bringing your daughter in tonight to testify.
Well, and no matter the location, Triumphant is a great asset for our entire peninsula.
I agree.
So, thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Cox, and we appreciate your public service on the Assembly. Yes, and we have Mr. Navarre.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, council members. I'm Mike Navarre, P.O. Box 169, Kenai, Alaska. I'm here to support the Triumvirate Theater and the donation of land, and I'm on the Rasmussen Foundation board. The Rasmussen Foundation staff is already engaged in this. They provided a grant, undesignated, $25,000. They also paid for a project manager to start the process, work with the architect, start building the costs in. The way the Rasmussen deals with Tier 2 grants, it has to be a complete package with where the funds are coming from, the bottom line number. We also reach out to other foundations around the country to help fund it. And so I cannot, of course, guarantee funding, but the Rasmussen staff is already engaged in this and are anticipating the Tier 2 grant so that we can start. If we get it in July, it's possible that we could have it on our agenda for our fall meeting. We do 2 meetings a year, one in June and one in November. We could have it on the fall meeting if we are unable to get a completed package in on that time. We don't want to rush it. We want to make sure we have it as complete as possible so that we identify where the funds are coming from and how much is left and needed. It will, if it's not on November, it'll be on next June. So it is in the hopper, I guess. The Rasmussen staff is aware of it. The way it's being structured now is so that the Triumvirate Theater will own the theater themselves. In the past, it was owned by 2 other families that were leasing it to the Triumvirate Theater. In this case, we're going to have it where we've talked about making sure that it's owned by Triumvirate Theater. They won't have debt on it, so it will make them far more sustainable in terms of longevity for their programs. And I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Navarre. Is there any questions for Mr. Navarre? Councilmember Petty.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Navarre, for coming and sharing that insight about the Rasmussen and timelines and such as that. And so would the value of the land be put forth in this packet so it helps receive greater opportunity for grants?
Absolutely. It'll be a key part of it.
Okay.
Showing how the whole package goes together, including the cost of land and the fact that it's being donated show as part of that, but the value of it will be included in the package and the total cost of the project.
Thank you.
And it will certainly help with Rasmussen and other foundations to have that type of money.
It would show City of Kenai support. Yes. Councilmember Wingert.
Yes, I just wanted to say thanks for coming and testifying in support and giving us the information. It's always nice to see you, so I just wanted to say thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the general public? Mr. Dillon.
Is that because I have a quieter voice? Good evening. Tim Dillon, Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District Executive Director. Thank you all very much for considering this. We all talk about quality of living. You know, we're about ready to approve our comprehensive economic development strategy for the next 5 years. And that overarching theme, again, is quality of living. You saw the young lady, you've heard people talk about the tangible pieces, but I'm sure somebody's gonna be asking about some of the financial pieces and you know, why would you give away free land? And I wanted to make sure that you know that this proposed Kenai land could offer such a substantial benefit to the community if invested in this type of a program. Economically, the theater will generate sales tax revenue through ticket sales, contribute to the city through property taxes, purchase products through local retailers, generating additional sales tax, invest time, resources, and money to develop the existing piece of land and create an additional asset in the community. But the theater will do far more than provide an economic investment for the city. It provides an investment in the community itself and the fabric of what Kenai is all about. The theater, as has been mentioned, provides a safe place for students to grow, offers an outlet for expression, creates a network for at-risk youth, and provides additional academic opportunities for high schoolers and folks looking to go to college. This proposed lot is currently, and has been for many years, vacant. It's time to go ahead and see what the potential is so that this community can be even more. I urge you to support this, and as you can see, there's a variety of different types of people that are involved in the organization from around, not just from Kenai, but from the whole peninsula, because we truly believe in what happens there. Be more than happy to answer any questions, but thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Are there, Mr. Glenn, Councilmember Glendenning?
Yes, just, I don't know, in a soundbite, I guess what's going to be created here will actually be a destination, a cultural destination for people to come to Kenai and enjoy the offering. And I can see from the plans and from the enthusiasm and from the track record of this organization that our community in general and the area will be well served by this addition. And thank you for stepping up.
Believe me, we're not doing anything close to what Mr. Rizzo and his team has been up to for years. So we're just here to try and help and support.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to ordinance number 3219, 2021? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Administration has asked that the matter be postponed, the ordinance be postponed to the July 7th meeting with a second public hearing. Does council want to discuss the ordinance or move to postpone? Councilmember Naxted.
I can make a motion to postpone, but I think it might be appropriate since we've had some, the amount of public
Certainly,
comments that we might want to discuss a little bit, just to kind of point out where we're at. That would be my suggestion.
And you're welcome to go ahead and
Yeah.
discuss the ordinance.
Well, okay, I could start out. I see absolutely no downside to this arrangement, this agreement. It's, you know, from the city side, it's great for the city. and it's great for the theater. There is no downside. I challenge anybody to actually think if they can find any. And both of my children are in their late 20s now, but they went through, in Kenai, there was a theater in Kenai over where Fred Braun's used to be, over there. And they did those plays. They grew. They became, they had great poise after that and were able to perform at higher levels than I ever imagined them to do. And I think it's great for the youth too. So there's that aspect as well. And so I look forward to this being built, and hopefully that'll happen next summer. Thank you.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I just would like to kind of piggyback off of all the comments that we heard from everyone. There's just so much value to bring this into the city and to be supporting this. There's so much it offers the youth. Can't agree more that it does add a lot of confidence with participants, as we see in youth being involved, coming and speaking shows the amount of impact. I definitely will be supporting this in the July meeting. I look forward to the groundbreaking and anything I can do to volunteer and help as well. We're good with shovels, axes, and donate money. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Councilmember Askin.
I also am in support of this, that all of the sports programs we have do save a lot of kids, but we need theater. There's kids, some kids don't resonate with the sports side, and I had one son that he definitely loved the theater. So I will be in support of it also.
Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I too will be supporting this. When I was in high school, I was in a play, and I played the part of the mayor in the play Our Town. And so look at me now. So it was a good career launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, I look forward to seeing how this will be such a rich opportunity for our community, and also would remind the individuals who spoke tonight and giving us insight that the planning and zoning who will be looking at this will be next Wednesday on the 23rd. So if y'all were available, or you could send a representative so that the planning and zoning would also have a greater understanding about what's going on. And so I am very in favor of this, and I look forward to being able to participate positively towards this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Councilmember Naxted.
I have one question, I think, for administration. The value of the property is important, and it hasn't been created yet. It hasn't been subdivided. I was curious how we were going to arrive at a value for that property.
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Naxted. So we have worked on that a little bit. We do have a values of nearby properties that we had done during our 2020 appraisal that we can likely use to provide a cost estimate. If needed, Triumvirate could pay for an appraisal to get an exact value of the property, but I think we can get an estimate of value that's probably going to be suitable for their use. We don't have it yet, like I said, but we do have some comparables in the area that we'll be able to use the square footage appraisal cost from 2020 to come up with a very reliable estimate of the cost or the value of that property.
And, you know, I also plan to support ordinance number 3219-2021, and perhaps we'll have some information on comparables for July 7th. Or are there any other comments on the merits? If not, could we have a motion to postpone? Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move to postpone ordinance 3219-2020 to our July 7th meeting, and also have a second public hearing.
Second.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested to the postponement. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, ordinance number 3219-2021 is postponed to the July 7th meeting with a second public hearing. And thank you for everyone who came and commented tonight. Next item is ordinance number 3220-2021, authorizing a tourism, travel, and Hospitality Services Economic Stimulus Program to benefit certain Kenai small businesses and award of a professional services agreement to the Kenai Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Center for administration of the program brought forth by administration. Wishes of the council. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I move for approval of ordinance number 3220-2021.
Second.
Ordinance number 3220-2221 has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to ordinance number 3220-2021? Mr. Dillon, thank you.
Tim Dillon, Executive Director, Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District. I just wanted to just come up and tell you how proud I am of not only the city of Kenai, but all of our 6 incorporated communities on the Kenai Peninsula. And this is another program where you guys are in front of the rest of the state. I support this wholeheartedly, with what you guys are doing, trying to help put monies into the small businesses again with another program. And I know over the last year, there's been a lot of changes over in the chamber. I couldn't be happier with what's going on at the chamber right now. They are burning on all cylinders and doing an awesome job. And I think they will help you make sure that this program works and works very, very well. So thank you for what you're doing, and I hope you support this.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Are there any questions for Mr. Dillon? Thank you. Seeing none, can we have a report from administration?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. So as you'll see in the memo on page 47 of your packet, at this point, I am recommending to council that this ordinance be suspended by postponing the ordinance indefinitely. As you'll recall, back in January, I provided a memo that had this program as well as the storefront improvement program and some other ideas that administration was working on. We felt strongly at the time that the hospitality and tourism industries were the hardest hit. I mean, every indication we had, both in the state, particularly in the state and nationally, is that these were some of the industries that were the hardest hit. So because we had provided that in January, and I think the evidence in January indicated that this was an area that did need some support, I felt like there was some commitment on the part of administration to bring this forward. So we did bring this forward for introduction at the June 2nd meeting. As we were preparing to introduce it on the June 2nd, we had a lot of internal discussions about the program and whether or not we felt at the time that it was warranted. And so I went into that with some reservations. However, between June 2nd and now, as I considered it further, and we got additional information, which is outlined in the memo, which is such that, and although the data that we have is not complete, such as occupancy rates in local hotels, there are some municipalities that have that information at their fingertips. We do not have that, but the information that we do have indicates that occupancy rates are very high, lodges are full, guides are across the board incredibly busy. So many of these industries that we thought would be impacted more severely by COVID, it appears that there's an unexpected recovery of this industry. So with that information, and also with the fact that Alaska Department of Commerce, Community and Economic Development is providing $410,000 for tourism promotion that should help that industry even more, I felt that it was warranted to ask council for your consideration in actually postponing this indefinitely. We did include in your packet the program as we had outlined it. That's on the previous pages of that. So that this would be what the program would look like. We committed to providing that to you. You didn't have it at your last packet, but it's in here now. So this does explain how the program would work. But again, I don't think that the need is there to warrant the appropriation of the $200,000 at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrander. And I have to apologize. I should have asked if there was anyone else from the public who wanted to speak to ordinance number 3220-2021 before we have the council discussion. And I see nobody, and there's nobody on Zoom. Okay, we'll bring it back to council then, and thank you, Mr. Ostrander. Comments from council? Mr. Glendenning, Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, yeah, I concur with our city manager, Paul Ostrander. As I look around our city, I can see that there's quite a bit of economic activity. And actually, a lot of the establishments are hard-pressed to find talent and employees to participate fully in the economic potential that's already here. And I would think that any additional funding at this point in time would be redundant as to what's already the velocity of money that's already going through our community. Maybe at some time in the future we could entertain this, but at the appropriate time I will make a motion to postpone ordinance 3220-2021 indefinitely. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so did you actually make a motion? Or
If this was the appropriate time, it is a motion, yes.
Okay, then, motion has been made and seconded to postpone ordinance number 3220-2021 indefinitely. Is there a discussion on postponement?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Okay, there being no objection, ordinance number 3220-2021 is postponed indefinitely. Next item is resolution number 2021-40, authorizing and awarding a contract extension for ambulance billing through Systems Design West for the period of July 21, 2021 through June 30, 2023, brought forth by administration. Is the wishes of council. Councilmember Nextet.
Thank you. I move to adopt resolution 2021-40.
Second.
Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to resolution number 2021-40? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I would ask the city manager just to refresh my memory on how this system works with the ambulance building. We've discussed it before, but I didn't retain all the information. Thank you.
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Glendenning. So we did put out an RFP back in 2018 for ambulance billing for all of our ambulance services. So the way that this works is when we respond in an ambulance, Systems Design West is the one that actually takes that information and then provides the billing services for us. So they provide the billing services, we collect the revenues. This is a contract that is a 5-year contract, 3 years with, I believe this is a 2-year approval here for an additional 2 years. So this would extend Systems Design West. According to Chief Pryor, they've been very pleased with Systems Design West and their responsiveness to our billing needs, so that they would like to see this continue.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay. Is there any other discussion by council?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Okay, seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-40 is approved by unanimous consent. Next item is resolution number 2021-41, authorizing a budget transfer within the General Fund Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Department to supplement the leave account in excess of budget amounts brought forth by administration. Wishes of the council. Councilmember Nextet.
Thank you. I move to adopt resolution 2021-41.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to resolution number 2021-41? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to council for discussion.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-41 is approved by unanimous consent. The next item is Resolution number 2021-42, authorizing an equipment purchase agreement and issuance of a purchase order for the new replacement sludge press at the wastewater treatment plant brought forth by administration. What is the wishes of the council? Councilmember Askin.
I move we adopt Resolution 2021-42.
I'll second.
Resolution number 2021-42 has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to resolution number 2021-42? Seeing no one, I will bring it back to council. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion? Oh, Councilmember Glendenning, excuse me.
I'm at the little kids' table.
Yes.
Yeah, just say, I, of course, will be supporting this, but we have been well-informed over time by administration and the Public Works Director of the need and actual functional use of this. I think we're well imbued with understanding at least how this will function in our wastewater treatment plant, and I'm just glad for the background that we've had and on this, the discussion, and I think we can vote in full confidence that this is the proper application of public funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Councilmember Naxted.
I do have a question for administration. This purchases the sludge press, which we've been talking about, and but it doesn't include, I don't think, the installation of it. I was wondering if it was, how that was going to be handled, if it was pretty much you just pull out the old one, snap the new one in, or is that a separate contract?
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted. So that'll be a separate contract. So we intentionally wanted to purchase this large piece of equipment through an RFP to save money on the acquisition of the equipment, but there will be a second RFP for the design, for the installation, and then a contract to design the equipment as well. That's my understanding of it. Mr. Curtin's not here. If I'm not speaking accurately, I'll make sure you know, but that's my understanding of how we're going to proceed, is that this is the first step of essentially what is a three-step process.
I think that's exactly right on. That's what I expected. Thank you.
Is there any other comment by council?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-42 is approved by unanimous consent. Next item is resolution number 2021-43, authorizing budget transfers in the general fund, street and building departments, and the water and sewer fund, wastewater treatment plant department to account for unanticipated expenditures brought forth by administration. Wishes of the council. Councilmember Naxted.
I move to approve Resolution 2021-43.
I'll second.
Okay, resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to resolution number 2021-43? Seeing no one, will bring it back to council for the discussion. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, if I could just ask our city manager just to briefly comment on this. I notice in the supporting letter there was implications of a COVID impact.
Mr. Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Glendenning. So COVID did impact us at the wastewater treatment plant simply because we only have 3 employees that work there, and one of the employees was in a high-risk category and was forced to work from home for an extended period of time, which works fine operationally. However, we have testing requirements at the plant 7 days a week, and because we only had 2 people to cover during those 7 days a week, we incurred overtime that we hadn't originally budgeted.
Thank you.
Is there any other comment?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted. Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-43 is approved by unanimous consent. Next item is resolution number 2021-44, authorizing the city manager to extend the restaurant concession agreement in the Kenai Municipal Airport for an additional year, brought forth by the administration. What is the wish of the council? Councilmember Askin.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2021-44.
Second.
Resolution number 2021-44 is now on the floor. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to this resolution?
Anyone anyone on Zoom can use the raise hand feature or unmute yourself?
Thank you. Seeing no one who wishes to speak to the resolution, bring it back to council for discussion. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Naxted.
Yeah, thank you for the city manager. I was wondering, in the next year, or anytime soon, are we looking to revert the contract for the restaurant back to its original conditions, I guess?
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Naxted. And just to make sure I understand the question, you're talking about the original contractual obligation of 10% of gross sales?
That's correct. I think we took it from there and we reduced it, and then we reduced it to zero, and I think that's where we are right now. So I wasn't sure if you're looking at ramping that up.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Yes, actually, the cafe has been notified, as well as the bar, that subsidized rent ends at the end of this month. So starting at the beginning of the fiscal year, all the original contract obligations will be in place.
Is there any other questions? Councilmember Winger.
Yes, this would be a question for administration. We asked at a previous meeting about signs for the restaurant. I noticed driving by that there's really small signs attached to a light pole. Are we going to put something, a bigger sign in? I mean, those signs are smaller than the small Butler and the Butler sign down the road. They're really unreadable. They don't give much exposure to those businesses. Are we going to better that and get a bigger sign system in?
Mr. Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger, yeah, the fact that you just noticed them indicates that they are very small because they've been there for several years. The plan is to get bigger sign. Yeah, as part of the landscaping plan, Mary had planned on a larger sign up front. Those ones that are out there now, like I said, have been there at least a couple years, and unless you're really looking for them, you can't see them. So there is a plan to get more exposure by putting better signage out by the road.
Do we have a ballpark on when that would happen? Since they're renewing their contract, that way they can have the most exposure over this next year?
Mr. Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Winger. Our new airport manager is back in the office on Monday, and the landscape plan for the entire front part of the airport is one of the things that's on his priority list. So once he gets back in place, we're going to start moving on. The intent is to get it done this summer. So I couldn't give you a more specific timeline than that, however.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Councilmember Petty.
So help me understand, administration or you, Vice Mayor, if we approve this, then the cafe will still maintain its current agreement, and the expiration of what was supposed to happen at the end of this month will continue for another year. Is that correct?
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Petty. Yeah, so this was a total of a 5-year agreement that began in 2018, I believe. It was an agreement for 2 years, and then also approval upon mutual consent for 3 successive 1-year terms. This is for the second of those 3 successive 1-year terms. So this is year 4 of the agreement. So this would extend it from July 1st of 2021 until July 1st of 2022. And it's under the same contractual agreement that we were the very first time. The thing that changed between the first time that they signed the agreement and now is that because of the terminal rehabilitation project, we subsidized their rent for a long period of time, and then because of COVID, we forgave their rent for an extended period of time after that. So there's been a long period of time where they've been paying either less than the 10% that's in the contract, or in a lot of cases, 0 for the month. What I was saying is, as of July 1st, my authorization to provide any sort of subsidized rent that the council has provided me goes away. So as of July 1st, the original contract agreement, which is that they pay 10% of gross sales monthly to the city, that will start again, and then that will go through the end of whenever this contract ends, which at the end of this term, this 1 year, there's one more option by mutual consent for the council to approve for an extension that would take them all the way through 2023. But assuming we don't have another global pandemic or something else crazy happens, they should be under the terms of the original contract for the remainder of the contract.
So this resolution here is extending their contract unaltered for an additional year.
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Petty, that is accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes, a question for Paul. I'd like to follow up. So after that, next year, when we go into this, they would revert back to the 10%, or would there be room to change those numbers in that last year?
City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger. The approval that we are currently operating under allows an extension under the same terms as the original contract. If we were to change those, I think to meet our procurement code, we would likely have to go out to another RFP, because it was a competitive proposal process when we originally awarded the contract, and we would want to afford another competitive process before we changed the contract agreements within the contract itself. Again, because of the terminal rehabilitation project and because of COVID, those were extraordinary circumstances that allowed us to adjust that. But now that we are in a scenario where we can't justify that, if we were to change the terms of the agreement, I think to meet our procurement code, we'd have to go back through a competitive process.
Okay, thank you. I just had one comment to make.
Yes, Councilmember Winger. Go ahead.
I'm familiar with that location. I've leased that location for a restaurant. I find the increase in cost to be a little bitter to the taste. I couldn't imagine a 10% off of gross sales. That's definitely not what I had in my contract with that location. I would find that to be a really difficult to pull off sales-wise. So I would like to maybe relook at that in the future so that we can obtain more businesses, because 10% on a gross sales, I pay $1,200 a month when I lease that. And 10% of $500,000 in sales would be an astronomical difference from what I had paid. So I would like to see this be a little bit, maybe in the future, friendlier.
Could I comment on that?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger. So one of the things that we did when we initially went through this, when we changed it to a percent of gross sales, is we got rid of the base payment amount. Because historically, what we'd seen at the cafe and the bar both, and actually the bar is still under an agreement similar to this, is that there's a base payment that is due to the city regardless of the gross sales of the tenant. Previous tenants had not only the base payment that they had made, but on top of that, then there was on top of that a percentage of gross sales. The concept behind the percent of gross sales was that as the business is successful, the city is successful. So if the business is doing well, the city's doing well, whereas if the business has a down month, that percent of gross sales is significantly reduced below what it would be if they had significant sales. So we were trying to be more business friendly in that case, and I know that the businesses themselves were supportive of that framework for the contract when we originally did this back in 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrander. Are there any other comments by council? Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to state that I think the Brothers Cafe has done a very good job since they've been in the airport, and they built up a very good business. And then it was kind of a 1-2 punch, you know, with the reconstruction of the terminal building and all of that as it moved through was very difficult. And then with COVID, and I think the city is taking very good care of its tenants and doing such. But they've held with us, and I look forward to at least another year with them, and they seem to be very agreeable in doing so.
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted. And
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-44 is approved by unanimous consent. Next item is resolution number 2021-45, authorizing the termination of the facility management services agreement for the Kenai Recreational Center with the Boys and Girls Club of the Kenai Peninsula and authorizing a new agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of the Kenai Peninsula to operate the teen center at the Kenai Recreation Center. Wishes of the council. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. I move for approval of Resolution 2021-45.
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the general public who would like to speak to resolution number 2021-45?
Anyone on Zoom can use the raise hand feature or unmute yourself.
Seeing no one wishing to speak to the resolution, we'll bring it back to council for discussion. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yes, I would ask the city manager, to speak on background regarding what has changed in the situation over there and how he forecasts it will work going forward.
City Manager Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Glendenning. So I think it was actually almost a year ago, maybe even longer than that the Boys and Girls Club approached administration and requested that this contract to provide services at the rec center be terminated. As you likely remember, the Boys and Girls Club has been operating the rec center for over a decade in that facility, but they felt strongly that it did not meet the mission of the club in that they were providing recreational services for the adult community primarily, and their mission was really about the youth. And so they wanted to terminate the contract, and but they wanted to continue to provide the services at the teen center. So we began looking at it as administration and figuring out whether or not there was an economical way for the city to provide the administration of the building, to run the facility, and at the same time allow them to continue to run the teen center. So what you're seeing in front of you tonight is a termination of that contract. It also has an agreement specific to the teen center utilization of that by the Boys and Girls Club, which would assume that the council would continue to appropriate $10,000 a year towards the operation of the teen center as you have for the last number of years, and provide that teen center to them at no cost. There are some obligations on their part as far as the teen center goes. The $10,000 is intended to make sure that it is open for all teens. If you are not a member of the Boys and Girls Club and you're a teen that wants to attend at the facility, you're welcome in. They sign you up as a member, but there's no cost to that teen. As far as the operations of the rec center, we're actively recruiting for city employees that would assume management of that facility on July 1st. I know Mr. Frades is on Zoom, and he can add additional information as how that process is proceeding if you need that information.
Thank you, Mr. Ostrander. Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I have a question for administration. I seen that they're going to be doing rental of the teen center, and they'll be collecting a fee. Where will that fee go, and how will that be used? There was nothing to indicate where that would go, if it goes to the Boys and Girls Club or to the city.
Mr. Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Are you referring to rental of the rec center or the teen center?
I believe it said the rental of the teen center. Can you tell us maybe how both would work? If they rent the teen center, does that go to them? Does it come to us? How that differentiate?
Mr. Ostrander,
Sure,
please.
thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger. If there is a rental of the teen center, if they went through that process, it would go to the Boys and Girls Clubs because that space is theirs to operate. Any revenues generated from that space would go to the Boys and Girls Club. As far as the rec center, once we assume management of the facility, any fees associated with the rental of that facility would go to the city's general fund.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Councilmember Glendenning, did you have another comment?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Yes, I will be supporting this resolution, and as alluded to in our budget review, I see here on page 81 of our packet that there's actually a document, a work order request building maintenance addressed to the city of Kenai regarding this building, this investment. And I'm really heartened to see that we'll be able to track our concerns, our maintenance costs, and have documentation of what the maintenance concerns were and how we accomplished them. And thanks for including that.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Is there any other discussion by council? Councilmember Nexted.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, resolution number 2021-45 is approved by unanimous consent.
Can I request an at ease, please?
Yes, we will be at ease for 10 minutes.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, council, we're back on the record. Next item is item G5, an action approval item. This is for a special use permit to James H. Doyle, individually DBA Weaver Brothers, Inc. for truck trailer storage brought forth by administration. What is the wishes of the council? Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move that we approve the special use permit for James Doyle doing business as Weaver Brothers.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any council discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the special use permit to Doyle DBA Weaver Brothers is approved by unanimous consent. Council, the next item is item G6, an action approval item. This is for a special use permit to the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for air tanker reload base, brought forth by administration. What are the wishes of the council? Councilmember Askin.
I move that we approve special use permit to the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for air tanker reload base.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I would note for the record that this approval was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their June 9th meeting, and also recommended by the Airport Commission at their June 10th meeting. Is there any discussion by council? Councilmember Naxted.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the special use permit to the State of Alaska Division of Forestry for the tanker reload base is approved by unanimous consent. Council, next we have item G7, an action approval item approving the official bond amounts for the city manager, city clerk, and finance director brought forth by administration. What is the wishes of the council? Councilmember Naxted.
Thank you. I move that we approve the officials' bond amounts.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Winger.
Yes. Can we ask administration to give us kind of a rundown on this?
Thank you. City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger, I would like to defer to Finance Director Eubank and let him fill you in.
Mr. Eubank, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Winger. So in section 4.3 or 4-3 of the city's charter, the charter requires that the city administrator, their finance director, and the city treasurer and other employees that council may designate to be bonded for the full faithful performance of their respective duties. And the amount of that bonding shall be set by council. So this is the process by which council will establish what they believe the appropriate bonding amount is. As information, the city's liability insurance policy through the Alaska Municipal League Joint Insurance Association provides $500,000 of employee dishonesty coverage. In addition to this coverage, in the past, council has established the bonding amounts at $100,000. $100,000 is the maximum, what I would deem inexpensive bonding amount that is available to the city. It can provide bonding for $100,000 for all three positions at a cost of about $360 a year. If we go beyond $100,000, it's a much more extensive application process, and those costs go up. So what's been done in the past is to provide that bonding amount at the $100,000 plus the $500,000, so each employee would be covered for up to $600,000 for employee dishonesty.
Great, thank you.
And did you have anything else, Councilmember Winger?
No, I just forgot my buttons on.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion? And what is the wishes of the council? Councilmember Naxted.
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, the official bond amounts are approved. The next item is item G9. This is a discussion item to set a Board of Adjustment hearing. This is on the appeal of a Planning and Zoning Commission action approving a conditional use permit to the applicant TKC LLC for 8 single-family dwellings in a suburban residential zone, Government Lot 26, Section 31, Township 6 North, Range 11 West, and located at 1714 Fourth Avenue. And there's a memorandum from the city clerk, page 161 in the packet. The 45-day date, according to the memo, is July 26th, but we have already scheduled a Board of Appeals hearing in a different matter for July 20th at 6 p.m., and then we have a city council meeting the 21st, and then we have a second Board of Adjustment appeal hearing set for Friday the 23rd at 6 p.m. So perhaps we have good cause, for going beyond the 45-day end date, which would be the following Monday after we do an appeal that previous Friday. I had, for the information of my colleagues, I had a conversation with Mayor Gabriel, who would be, the one that would chair the appeals, and he said the best dates for him are Fridays, and so within the 60-day period, dates that he has are Friday, July 30th, or Friday, August 6th, and that would be beginning at 6 p.m. And I don't know if that either of those dates would be also compatible with your schedules. For the Board of Adjustment, we sit as like planning and zoning. In effect, we sit in their shoes, and to participate in the appeal as the decision maker, you have to be present. There's no zooming in. Do any of you have a preference? Councilmember Winger.
You said Friday is for Mayor Gabriel, and you said the 6th. On here it says the 60-day requirement would be Wednesday the 4th. Would we be able to make the 6th work then?
Okay, yes, and thank you for that. I'm obviously mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess his proposal would be Friday, July 30th then.
I could make that work for me.
Okay, thank you. Can anyone not make that work? No, it's be my preference not to do Friday, but it's our job, so we need to. And it looks like that'll work for everybody. So we'll schedule the that appeal hearing for Friday, July 30th, beginning at 6 p.m. Thank you, Council. Okay. Next we have Commission and Committee reports. Council on Aging.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Petty.
There was no meeting due to lack of agenda, and that ends my report. And I believe that we're off through the summer. So our next meeting will be, I believe it's August the 12th or September the 9th. I'll know by next July. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Airport Commission. I covered the Airport Commission for Councilmember Nexted for their June 10th meeting. They recommended the 2 items that we had on our agenda, which was the special use permit for James Doyle, DBA Weaver Brothers, and the special use permit to the state of Alaska for the forestry for air tanker reload base. They added to their agenda another item which we also acted on tonight, which was the 4th Amendment to the restaurant concession agreement with Brothers Cafe, and they recommended approval of that also. They also discussed, terms relating to airline operating agreements, provisions that had been discussed by administration, including having a true-up at the end for employments, et cetera. And so that's in discussion. They also had talked about the development of the campground in the floodplain basin, where there's now some gravel in the road area there for the campground. Also, during the chair, Ms. Feakin asked about how we handled the lease agreement approval with SOAR International that was in front of us at our previous meeting, for it being a very valuable property. And, as far as assuring everyone of the commitment of SOAR to do their multi-stage project to completion, and discussed with the Airport Commission how we had a thorough discussion with Mr. Gearson over that, and we're satisfied that they were committed to making it happen, and that they also committed to, coming to the council for a time extension and reason why if they weren't able to complete it all by 2025. And the commission seemed to be, satisfied with that. And the next Airport Commission is July 8th. And so Harbor Commission, I also did Harbor Commission. Okay, that was June 7th. They had discussed, and they had an update and discussed the special use permit holders on the city dock, which are Mr. Chesak and Mr. Kehoe, for use of the cranes over there. And then the dock tenant contract that we have with Pacstar, a 2-year term for $25,000 a year. And they also talked about the status of the dock repairs and the capital project there, which is about 90% complete. Most of the earthquake damage has been fixed, and then there was a $7,000 change order because there was some additional damage to a trestle that was found. They also talked about the beluga whale research project that a graduate student is doing in the river, and the assistance being provided with buoys for data collection. And there was a wide-ranging discussion about the bluff erosion project, and that ends that report. Next item is Parks and Recreation Commission. Councilmember Winger.
Yes, thank you. We met, and we were able to have a presentation from the Aurora Borealis robotics team. And what they've decided to do is there was an impact due to COVID of people getting outside and being active and moving. So what they've done is they constructed a map, and on those maps we'll have a location of activities that can be done in that area. And then as a second part to the maps is having access to equipment to use. So if you're going to the field, you want to play baseball or frisbee, you would be able to get online on their webpage, reserve equipment that had been donated. They would put it in a little locker. You'd pick it up and you'd have access to use that. This is kind of the team's way of getting people out in the community. Maybe people don't know what there is to do, don't know the trail system. So they have a nice map that they would display at all those locations. They have a webpage, and it's something that they're working with Bridges for the nonprofit end of things. And they would be doing donations of maybe any sporting gear or anything that you have laying around from kids outgrowing them. They would gladly take them and then circulate them back through the community. I do think there's a big need for that. Being a sport parent myself, there are kids that don't have the items they need to participate. So donations of football gear, soccer gear, baseball gear really can go a long ways for youth, and I think that there is a need for that. And it'll be interesting to see how they grow this design. I know they were looking for a storage location within the city of Kenai. I know Bob and Carol had said that they could possibly have a storage location that they were working out. There was many suggestions from the rec center to maybe a spot at Beacon, or one of our facilities may have an area that they would be able to hold the gear in storage. And I know that was something that Bob and Carol were working on. Previously, we had Eagles project presented to us about boot brushes, cleaning stations that would be located at different trailheads. They had purchased the boot brushes for those stations, so that's the update I have on that. They've been busy clearing trees. There was discussion about the dead trees in the city, asking for a slash pile for people to be able to bring their down slash to. And then the only other thing is we have quite a few positions available that they are just not seeing the level of applicants that they've seen in the past. So if you know anybody that's over the age of 18, definitely send them over to the city's page. And we are off in July, and we meet again August 5th.
Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Next item is Planning and Zoning Commission. Councilmember Glendening.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. On the 9th of June, the Planning and Zoning Commission met in these chambers, and we had several items. Two, consideration of plats. There was a preliminary subdivision plat of Kenai Landing subdivision submitted by Edge Survey on behalf of Kenai Landing Incorporated, Homer Spit Road in Homer, and that passed unanimously. Also, the resolution for a preliminary plat for Triple C subdivision submitted by Ability Surveys on behalf of Mark Holmes in Naples, Florida. That passed unanimously. We had two action and approval items, the special use permit for the division, forestry for air tanker reload base, and the special permit for Weaver Brothers for truck trailer storage. Those both were passed unanimously and then affirmed by council tonight. Next meeting is June 23rd, and there's going to be soon a little training regimen that will come along with each meeting. Maybe like a work session that can be shoehorned in, and topics will be selected by the by our planning and zoning manager. Some questions remained about spruce bark beetle, how we're going to manage that. The bowling alley always is a question. The failing facade and all of that. They were concerned, not worried. And the bluff erosion had some comment. The donation of city lands was discussed, and it's to be noted that it'll be on their agenda the next meeting. And again, June 23rd is the next meeting, and that ends my comments. I brought my packet if there's any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendening. Next item is Beautification Committee. Councilmember Askin.
There was no meeting, but everything I think is planted in the city now. It's all looking pretty. And our next meeting is 9/14, September 14th.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin. There is no mini grant steering report. Next item is report of the mayor. The mayor is on vacation. He'll be back for the next meeting. There is no report. Next item is administration reports. City manager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. So the first item on my list is the bowling alley. I know that this was brought up at the June 2nd meeting and also discussed at planning and zoning. So I have tasked Ryan Foster, our planning director, with working with the owners to resolve the outstanding health and safety issues that are at the building. The primary one is the facade that has been failing for some time. So that we are going to start working with the owners to try to resolve that. I will continue to update you on that as we continue forward. Second item is spruce bark beetle. So continuing to work with Senator Murkowski's office, actually exchanged several emails today. They were meeting with appropriations today, and they're asking specifically about what the city of Kenai's request is. I reiterated to them that we're fully supportive of the $35 million request that the borough has given to the Appropriations Committee at the federal level. But I also told them that, the city of Kenai, if there's funds available for the city of Kenai, the things that we would focus on would be the removal of dead and dying trees on city property, as well as if there were federal monies available, likely the location of a slash disposal site in the city. In regards to the slash disposal site, I know there's been a lot of discussion about that. At this point, without federal funding, I'm not fully supportive of a slash disposal site just because of some of the things that we've seen historically. When we had one here before, it becomes a pretty significant cost to whoever does open that up because it becomes more than just slash disposal. My other concern about using strictly City of Kenai funds is if we were to open a slash disposal site here in Kenai, it would be open to anyone, and literally anyone to the end of North Road would be dumping at our slash disposal site, which would put additional economic strain on the residents of the city by accepting slash from folks in other areas. If there is a slash disposal site, I think that it should be open to everyone, however, which is why I think it's critical that there is a federal funding component of some type so that the burden doesn't fall completely on the residents of the city. One of the things in spruce bark beetle also, we're trying to quantify the number of spruce bark beetle trees on city property, and while it's really difficult, we have done an analysis of just 7 properties, which is City Hall, City Hall, Library, Public Safety, also the cemetery, Ryan's Creek Trail, and the Senior Center. There's one I'm forgetting, but anyways, of these 7 city properties, there's approximately 900 dead spruce bark beetle trees on those properties. We're trying to get a handle on what the total amount, and this is just City of Kenai property. I think it's going to clearly be in excess of 10,000 trees on City of Kenai owned property, which the total number of dead and dying spruce within our city limits is multiple times that. But we are going to try to, we might be able to work with the borough to get some help from them to help us identify how many trees there really are. It was a question that Murkowski's office asked me today. Couldn't really answer it effectively. I said there's a whole bunch. And I did say I think it's, even on City of Kenai property, I think there's an excess of 10,000. I think the problem is much more significant than any of us thought it was, even a couple of months ago. I wanted to let council know that the lease on the airport between the city and Schilling Rentals was executed at the end of May. This is the parcel where the Schillings have committed to build a building and crew quarters for Guardian Flight. They're required to complete the $1.2 million facility by May 31st. And just to refresh council's memory, and I had to look this up to remember what the history of this was. This lease was originally approved through Resolution 2020-14 on March 18th of 2020. And then council executed a lease extension in August of 2020 that extended it through May of this year. So that has been signed, and so we'll start receiving lease payments for that parcel, and then they're committed to building the facility between now and May of 2023. And the last item I have is bluff stabilization. So Scott Kurt and I had an excellent meeting with the Alaska District Commander, Colonel Damon De La Rosa, and also Randy Bowker, who is basically his deputy, but on the civilian side. And they came and met right here at City Hall with Scott and I, and it was interesting in talking to them. They said, every time we talk to the congressional delegation, he said Kenai is the first thing out of their mouth. So clearly the message is getting through that this is an important project. They reiterated their commitment to the Kenai project. They see multiple funding opportunities in the near future, not only for the design portion of it, but also the construction portion of the project. They seem to be optimistic that somewhere this was going to shake loose. And these are funding opportunities that still exist for this year. So it was really exciting to hear them talk about it, and, you know, I will continue to pursue it with both the Alaska District and also with our congressional delegation to try to shake that tree enough to get that funding that we need. The notice of award for the design of the project was issued today to HDR, so that contract is off and running. And one of the things that Colonel De La Rosa and Randy Bowker both told us is that being in the design of this project is going to be key in receiving funding for construction, because it is likely, you know, in the infrastructure bill that's running through the feds right now, they're likely going to be looking for shovel-ready projects, and the closer you are to shovel-ready, the more apt you are to get that funding. So it certainly positions us to potentially get funding that we might not otherwise. So I'm excited to see that HDR got that notice of award today, and they'll start working on it very soon. So that's all I have for my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Petty.
Yes, thank you, sir. Mr. Ostrander, could you share with us if the landfill outside of Soldotna, does it receive slash? Will it take slash for anybody in the community and in the outlying areas?
Councilmember, excuse me, City Manager Ostrander.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy, Councilmember Petty. Yes, they will. For folks that do have slash, that's the best location to do it. There's no cost to dispose there, but they do accept it, yes.
Thank you. That's a great solution for our community.
Councilmember Winger.
Yes, I was wondering, you said that you've reached out and spoke to Murkowski's office on this. Where is Sullivan's office on this?
Go ahead, Mr. Ostrander, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Councilmember Winger, are you referring to on bluff stabilization or on Spruce Bark Beetle?
I'm sorry, on the Spruce Bark Beetle, you said you spoke with Murkowski's office many times on this. Where is Sullivan's office on supporting that?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Winger, I've been working solely with Murkowski's office this time, although I should say that I've talked to Elena Spraker about Spruce Bark Beetle, but I haven't gone through the process of specifically communicating with them about funding for the city. But I'm sure that at some point here in the near future, I'll reach out through Sullivan's office as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would feel
Go
better
ahead.
if we were reaching out to both our representatives. Maybe with having both supporting this, we'll have a better chance of getting funding for it.
Do you want to respond to that? No, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Winger. Councilmember Glendenning.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Yeah, regarding slash disposal, it's happening in spite of our well-reasoned reasons, perhaps not to have a slash pile. In my neighborhood, there are several places on the margins of the forest, and that these slash items are appearing. So it's being disposed of in our city, regardless. And I'm sure we have our eye on it and probably even know where they are at. And hopefully we can get our arms around it before we have, you know, too big of a, how can we say, inventory of slash and spruce bark beetle trees just promiscuously located in various parts of our city. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Glendenning. Are there any other questions for the city manager? I just have a comment, and it relates to the funding for the removal. And I had a conversation with some residents over at Walker Lane area about the buffer strip that the city reserved, and almost all the spruce trees on the buffer strip are dead now, and they were concerned about them, number one, all coming out at once, and I wasn't aware of any current city plan for that area as far as removal is concerned. And then the other thing that they were interested in the city having a revegetation plan so that trees would be planted and maybe not just tiny seedlings, for their buffer strip. And I was wondering if, that might be part of the funding because there's other green strips that we have that are probably destroyed too, in the city. And so I don't know if you could address that, please.
Yeah, thank you for that, Vice Mayor Malloy. Revegetation does need to be a component of this, and it's something that we need to discuss, as a city on how we want to pursue that. I think it probably depends somewhat on the level of funding. If there's significant funding, allows you to revegetate with more than just the small seedlings and actually make an effective replacement that actually does provide some buffer or some, or provides that ornamental element of your landscaping. But it's something that we need to discuss if we receive funding. I would hope that it would allow for revegetation not only on city-owned property, but also on privately owned property as well. If there were a complete lack of funding, I think that the city certainly itself is going to revegetate in some capacity. It's just going to be far more limited than if we do get federal funding. That will help.
Thank you. Appreciate that discussion. The next item is city attorney reports, and I think Mr. Bloom might be on Zoom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy and council members. I don't have anything to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bloom? Councilmember Glendenning has a question.
Yeah, are you fishing or catching?
Neither. I'm actually in Salt Lake City. My oldest daughter's at a soccer tournament here, so we're
okay, well,
enjoying the.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Bloom, and I'm not seeing any legal issues on the agenda. Does anyone have any, on the remaining agenda, does anyone have any objection to Mr. Bloom being excused if he wishes to? You'd be excused if you wish to, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I will.
All right. Next item is the city clerk.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. Members of council, I have no report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions of the city clerk? We have none. Okay, so now we are at item K, additional public comment. Is there any citizen from the general public who would like to speak to council on any matter at this time?
If you're on Zoom, you can unmute yourself or use the raise hand feature.
Okay, there are no citizen comments. Next item is council comments. We'll go around the horn, starting with Councilmember Glendenning.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. No comments at this time.
Thank you. Appreciate your efficiency. Councilmember Askin.
I don't have any comments either.
Thank you, Councilmember Askin, and Councilmember Wingert.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to mention again that I will be traveling the state with my 3 children. We will be out of reception for the next 2 weeks while we enjoy our beautiful state. I just wanted to, again, give caution. There's been a lot of different bear situations as we've been reading in the reports across the state. I would just like to encourage everybody to be safe while they're outdoors, kayaking, camping, hiking. Have a plan. Make sure people know where you're going to be, what your check-in point is. Bring protection with you. And just, be vigilant in your areas and surroundings so that you don't fall victim to a bear encounter.
Thank you, Councilmember Wingert. Councilmember Petty.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Malloy. I had the privilege to attend the the Employee Appreciation barbecue, and just wanted to thank all the city employees for their perseverance through COVID this last year, and it was good to see everyone there and say personal thank you to everyone. And so hope everyone has a lovely evening. That ends my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Petty. Councilmember Nexted.
Thank you. First off, too bad Tim Dillon's not here. I just wanted to say that I appreciated him coming to speak on behalf of the Triumphant Theater. And then also for the ordinance that didn't move forward, for the tourism travel. And he's absolutely correct to say that the city of Kenai has been well ahead of the pack through this whole process, getting programs out, and this could have been another one, but I think that we did the correct thing in what we did. But I do appreciate his position on that, but he's right that that we have moved forward. I want to thank Vice Mayor Malloy for covering the Airport Commission for me. Much appreciated. I too attended the Employee Appreciation Dinner. Perfect day down there at the beach, sunny, hot, and I think we probably had more folks there than we anticipated to come, which is a great thing. And so that was great. One other thing is, probably when I go to bed tonight, this word term unanimous consent's going to pop into my head because it seems like I've been repeating it a lot tonight. So I do that just to kind of keep things moving along, but it's not intended to be anything to truncate or stop any further discussion. Just so if I do that, like Ms. Petty, she wanted to vote on that one item, I think that was appropriate. Any one of them is appropriate, so don't hesitate to object. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Naxted. And I just wanted to note that the mayor and all of council were at the employee appreciation dinner. Only Councilmember Askin was unable to make it because she was out of state, and otherwise would have been there. We do appreciate our employees. I want to thank my colleagues for the efficiency with they move the meeting and our good discussion. We have no executive session tonight, no pending items. There are 2 information items, and so we are adjourned.